Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and I am so excited about the guest that we're being joined by today because not only is this someone who is a fellow entrepreneur, just like you and I, but this is someone who is incredibly talented, and I can tell that he thinks like a visionary. This is someone who really envisions bringing real-life solutions to the marketplace in so many different industries and with some really cool technology, so I'm definitely biased. So let me tell you all about today's guest. His name is Narain Bala. Narain is the founder of Product On Point, which is a cutting-edge product development studio specializing in websites, apps, and SaaS solutions. With extensive experience spanning diverse industries, Narain is a seasoned product manager known for his expertise in startup leadership, user experience optimization, and software product management. He holds an MBA from the Georgia Institute of Technology, complemented by master's degrees in computer science from the University of Texas at Arlington. He's got a really cool and interesting background. I'm personally very excited to learn from Narain in today's episode, so I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Narain Bala. All right, Narain, I am so very excited that you're here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yes. I'm excited to hear about all the things that you've got going on your side of the world. But before we get there, take us beyond the bio. Who's Narain? How'd you start doing all these cool things?
I started at a very young age. I grew up in Kuwait. I did my undergrad in India. Around 1999 is when I moved there. And I came to America in 2003. And did my master's, as you mentioned, and then set up on a career in IT, but I started out in QA. And it took me a few years. I did QA at Sprint and WebMD, and then I was like, I need to go and get upskill myself. So I got myself that MBA, as you mentioned, from Georgia Tech. And luckily enough, I found a job in product. I was able to switch my careers and I moved to product management at CNN, which was a great time in my life. I loved working there. I loved the culture, just the immediacy of what we're doing. It was a fast environment. I loved it.
Yeah, Narain, I'll tell you what, anytime I get to talk to people who have been in product management and product development and all of those, it seems to me like you all think like business owners and entrepreneurs as it is because you take ownership of those products. You view those as solutions. They're exactly that. They're solutions in the marketplace. Talk to us about that mindset and how that professional career set you up for what you do today.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you something. It's a lot of times product managers are not just managing just one product, right? Like, for example, CNN, I had like maybe 5 to 6 at a time. So it's more what I loved the most about it was I managed it, not just the product, but also the ecosystem around it, right? So you're working with a lot of engineers, designers, and whatnot, and different people in different departments. I do try to control that ecosystem as well to keep it fun. And it's more than just the product that makes it fun, to be honest.
Yeah, talk to us more about that because, I mean, what you're listing is managing people, managing the product. What I'm hearing is exactly that, entrepreneurial business owner.
It is managing people that you're working with, it's managing the product, it's also managing the expectations of everyone, right? So product management is such a public job. You know, everyone can see your work, they log into the product, everyone has opinions on your work as soon as they see it. So it's very public-facing product. You do spend a lot of time speaking very publicly to big, large groups of people to try to get them aligned and on the same page and moving forward. In the bigger organizations, obviously in startups, you're going to have smaller teams. So you do have that sense of entrepreneurial management sort of energy, even without being one, because you do need that mindset without actually investing in the company, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. And obviously, listeners already know the spoiler alert, which all of this culminates in the fact that you are one of us now. You are a fellow entrepreneur with your business Product On Point. Talk to us about that transition, because I would imagine moving to the United States, you've obviously heard of the American dream, and you are a great example of that. Starting your own business, growing and running your own business. What did that transition look like?
Wow, thanks for that mention. But yeah, I do pinch myself sometimes. But I did. I made the switch to start my own studio when I had my last job, and I found it was a much smaller company than CNN, and I found that, and I was the only product manager there, so I could really have a lot of impact with the product, the processes, the frameworks, and I messed around with everything. So, and after doing that, I was like, I just found myself doing some fundamental things, nothing too big, just the fundamental things. Communicate what you're working on, be transparent, just how developers, designers, and engineers work together, not just the fundamentals of it all. And it made such a big difference to that company. We ended up delivering a $50 million roadmap in 1 year. So it made a big difference. And at that point, I was like, maybe I should just try this and see where it goes, because I see a lot of organizations, especially the ones that will operate in a non-jazzy tech industry, like stuff like utility companies or law firms, for example. They do need digital products to get their customers and interact with customers, but they don't have that sort of frameworks and processes that we in the tech industry have. So that was the whole intent of Product on Point. It's to be a one-stop shop access to product management talent, defines product strategies, etc. And we can also manage it as well, because the management is an important part. But essentially, that was my thought behind it, is that I think a lot of companies forget the fundamentals when it comes to product management. It is a lot of vision. There's a lot of entrepreneurial skills like you're talking about, but ultimately there are fundamentals, and I think a lot of companies miss it. I want to bring it, and let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I love that, Narain. What's really interesting for me, obviously, I get to interview entrepreneurs for a living, and I hear all different ways that people start their businesses. And also, I went to business school, and you did as well. And so we've heard the academic approach to starting a business. And when I look at your business journey, obviously, you have very tangible and incredible skills. But then also, what I'm hearing and talking to you today is that your business mind thinks about the gaps in the marketplace, the needs of real life clients that you can serve. How do you balance the two of those? Because obviously the way that you're growing Product on Point, you're thinking about both sides of that coin, but I'm curious, which comes first? How do you strategize from there, and how do you execute it into reality?
I think everyone does it different, and I may have done it differently over the years, but how I do today, I think as a product manager, you're going to be writing a lot. You're going to be reading a lot. You're going to be thinking by yourself a lot before you present it even to the first person what you're working on. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes before you get to that stage. So for me, I like to think about large scale, very, very high level stuff, like what do I want the studio to be perceived as? What do I want this studio to do? Should it just be me as a freelancer, or should it be like a studio with other people? So all these questions were something that I was thinking through. What would I have most fun with? Because when I first started, obviously with LinkedIn, everyone is going through independent consulting and all that kind of freelance work. But I didn't want to go into another organization and give them my solution and then rely on their engineers and their culture and whatnot to get it across the finish line. So that's why I was like, I need to be a studio. I need to have engineers. I need to have designers. I need to have product managers. And I think I'm not going to be a product manager. I want to be a studio head. So I love that I'm doing new things, but building on a foundation of what I learned through product management.
Yeah, really well said. And the fact that you talk about it in that studio mindset, in the way that you're operating within your business model, obviously it encompasses all of those aspects that you just introduced us to, from design to the actual engineering. Talk to us about how you've laid out your service lines and what it is that you offer to your clients, because I've been an entrepreneur now for 16 years, and we're always evolving, we're always changing, we're always adding, we're always removing. I'd love to hear how you've laid out your services.
Yeah, I went through hell for it. It took me 1.5 years to come up with it, but I kept changing it. Like you said, it didn't make sense. It wasn't what I want to do. It wasn't, sometimes it wasn't the expertise that I felt I could do. It was maybe a bit below what I'm used to doing. But it started, like I said, if I were doing this as an individual, what would my services be? It would have been very basic stuff. So then I was like, what if I start hiring people to do stuff I cannot do? Not just hiring, but I mostly work with freelancers, and so where they can own their own time, but I do share a personal revenue with them that gives them the value for the work more than just the hourly rate. But it started over there, and I initially wanted the studio to cover the entire product development life cycle, right? From the discovery to whatever, design, branding, tech, execution, deployment, marketing, promotion, everything. There's the whole cycle. And it started from there. But how do I put these 7 to 8 stages in a way that someone like a customer who's really in a hurry can understand? So that was the biggest challenge for me, how to make this whole ecosystem into 3 to 4 services. What I have now on the site, it might actually change again, because I thought this was it in December or November of last year, but I think I have something better, so I might be changing it soon. So it's a constant evolution, and that's okay until you can reliably get revenue. It's okay to keep changing. So it's such a low cost thing to do it, because it's just me and the website right now.
Yeah, I love your perspective on that, Narain. I feel like this is the advice that most people don't hear in classrooms or in most traditional business educational resources, but this is the real stuff. You and I have absolutely found it to be true in our own entrepreneurial journeys, especially when I look at the work that your company does, and I think it's cool because you're working on projects that have real world implications, whether you're helping fire and rescue departments or your other clients. Walk us through some of those things, because obviously we're hearing your story about the evolution of your business, but I know, and you both know, that a lot of it comes from doing the real work, not sitting in your office and thinking about how to grow and evolve, but actually serving people. I'd love to hear the behind the scenes story from projects like that.
Yeah, I mean, I did the basics, right? Reach out to your friends and family, and I did get a couple of customers. I won't say one of them was a law firm, and the other was the fire department in the county down in the next county down from where I am. I purposefully targeted these sort of industries because, like I mentioned, I think they will really value the work you're doing. I think some of the work we do is just taken for granted in a lot of tech companies, especially big tech, and it may not even be appreciated because everyone does it. But these sort of firms, I felt like could make a big impact, and I was not wrong, right? So with the law firm, for example, it was just basic fundamental stuff to increase page performance, increase the quality of lead conversions. A lot of these law firms have poor messaging on their web page. They promote themselves versus what they do. Just the fundamentals of messaging. And so that was more than design, branding. That is what they valued. And that's the kind of strategic aspect I'm hoping the studio can provide. And with the fire department, for example, they really don't have the kind of engineers that you would see in Google and whatnot. So the expertise I could bring there provides a real value for them, save them a lot of time. It was a lot of these government firms, they have really outdated systems that they kind of fill in the blanks to make them talk to each other. Like in the fire department, they would download stuff from one app and make a spreadsheet, re-upload in other apps just to kind of do payroll. So I just kind of fused them together, just integrated the two of these systems. Standard stuff for maybe some of the larger companies, but invaluable sort of contribution, these sort of non-technical expertise sort of places.
Yeah, for sure. I love the fact that you call that out, because probably a lot of the things that you do feel second nature, and you've obviously seen it at huge companies, but for smaller businesses that don't have that in-house talent, you said the word invaluable, and I actually very much agree with you there, especially because what I think of is that a lot of us are so close to our work, so close to our businesses, that we don't see the solution. So I'd love to hear from your perspective. Maybe this is with your product management hat on, of how do you walk into a business or a project, make sense of the existing landscape, and then map out, okay, here's all the different types of solutions, and here's the solution that we want to power forward with?
I think it changed over the years, and with the more experience I got, like when I walked into CNN, for example, for the first time in 2015, I came straight from QA, so I had never seen a product manager before that. I mean, these days, when I started, at least back in the day, 2005, you would never see product managers. You'd only see developers and DBAs, the QA person in your Scrum meetings. And when I walked into CNN, was the first time I saw a product manager in the life, and it was a big jump. So when I was in that situation, you can easily start spinning very fast, and especially in that fast environment, so many people are very successful over there. Big universities they come from over there. They can talk really good, so especially at CNN. So just trying to figure that part out. just be patient. And looking back, I know the first 2 years over there, I struggled so much because, like you mentioned, I came from somewhere else, so my English wasn't that good as well. I had to learn to communicate. In product, you got to communicate. You got to be public. You got to communicate. So that was kind of fundamental. I had to overcome that. But if I were going into a new place now with like a new kid going in, I'd say calm down. Just go to your desk at your table, just read stuff, research stuff, look at the architecture. Don't get too caught up with everyone buzzing around your ear. In product, everyone will buzz around your ear. There's going to be a lot of people asking you for things, a lot of people who have urgent needs from their perspective, but maybe not from yours and the organization as well. So you need to just trust yourself a little bit more, back your judgment. You've spent time, you came up with a judgment, go for it, just express it. People will rip it apart regardless if it makes sense or not. So especially if you're in product. So just do it. And so that was the kind of approach I would take if I'm going to something new. Looking back, of course, when I was doing it, I was just all over the place. But another example, when I went to my prior company, the much smaller one in the non-tech space, it took me a while to. I was much more experienced by then, so I could add another layer to the landscape. I started looking at how the C-suite performs, how the management culture, stuff that I didn't look at when I was younger, because I just assumed everyone knew what they were doing. But so it changes. As you grow older, you look at more things. Your title itself goes up, hopefully. You have different responsibilities. Consider that when you're factoring in what you need to do. Fundamentals, have a good relationship, not like, hey, what happened in the game last night relationship with your engineers and designers, but a good relationship. Where you are concerned about the quality of work you're providing to them. That has always been fundamental to me. It's so simple. If you want to make a difference as a product manager, make sure the work you're bringing is quality that an engineer or designer feels like, I want to come into work for this guy. Otherwise, it's just going to go the wrong way.
Yeah, I love that, Narain, especially because you're bringing up the important mindset stuff that I don't think we talk about often enough. You bring up patience, which is something that we could probably do multiple podcast episodes just on the topic of patience. But what I want to call out right now, listeners know that before we ever get together, you and I, to create this episode, we do a lot of background research. And part of that is we always ask our guests, what's your zone of genius? And I love your answer. I'm going to call it out here on the air because you wrote a winning mentality, even though it's not something that I had to begin with. I would love, with your entrepreneurial hat on, for you to talk to us about that, because obviously working for somebody else is one thing, but now you're your own boss. You are the leader of the ship and you're growing your company. Why is that such an important part of what you do?
Because I don't get stressed out when things aren't going well, because I know if I just put some time into it, it's going to be hard, but eventually it will come through. And that's absolutely, like I said, it was something I had to learn. In product, you're not going to have this the minute you walk in through the door. You're going to get it doing this multiple launches, multiple products, week after week you're delivering. It comes after 3 to 4 years, you get the hang of things. You kind of know, okay, these are 3 things I need to do to get things moving. These are 3 pieces of information I need before I can even begin talking to anyone. It all starts falling into place. So my big thing, if you're a product manager, one of the fundamental aspects is you need to be comfortable working in an ambiguous environment with very little information coming in. No one is giving you good information. You have to go get it yourself. Like I said, just keep it calm, keep it chill. And I can see it making a difference with the studio work. For example, if I had done something like this 4 years ago, I would have been lost. I would have been panicked. I would have been nervous. I'm like, well, there's no progress. There's no customers. What's going on? But now I'm like, if I just keep doing the right things, just be patient. It'll come. And I am having a lot of fun going through the process. And since I am my own boss now, I'm not rushing through things. That's the beauty of this all. I've had a lot of fun this 1.5 years just thinking about what I want to do, being a bit meticulous. It's okay to be meticulous in life. I know in fast organizations, that is the first victim. But I take my time these days. That's what's changed a bit from the fast product environment.
Yeah, I love that. I'd love to hear some insights about your executive time behind the scenes, because hearing the way that you obviously think like a product manager, which is a huge asset to you. But what I'm envisioning, just being a fellow business owner, is I realize you have a team, you have to manage them, you have clients, you're managing them. You also, kind of lingering over all of our conversation today, is you're also growing strategically the business development side of things. You have to manage the sales process. You have to get new clients. Talk to us about how you organize that, because I would imagine that as a product manager, you have a very systematic way of doing it all.
Yeah, I didn't do everything at one shot. So when I first started, this is 2023, around September, October is when things started falling into place. So maybe by January of 2024 is when I really started. I registered the LLC, for example, only in January 2024. I knew first thing I need a lead generation website. So I started from the I knew I couldn't do it myself. I had that realization in October of the year prior. And that's why I reached out, like you mentioned, I have a good team behind me. A lot of the website, a lot of the copywriting, marketing is done by Lauren Demarest, who's another entrepreneur herself. She may be a good fit for this episode. She has a vacation studio, exercise studio in Mykonos, Greece. And then I have my friend Austin, who is also someone I've worked with a lot in the past. So if there's something that doesn't involve the business side of the studio, the lead generation side of the studio, I do try to get people to help me to move it along. And if I hadn't done that, I would never be here on this podcast even. I don't think anyone would know who I was. No one does even now, but I'm just saying it wouldn't have gotten this much traction. Get people to help you and trust their work. How I work with others, I do give frameworks and objectives. I never go and say, make this blue, make this green kind of stuff. Just let people work, give them space as you would like space for yourself.
Yeah, really good advice there. And I love the fact that it's a glimpse into how you actually operate, not just advice that you're giving on a podcast episode, but this is the real way that you're growing your business, Product on Point.
Like you mentioned, right? The process, right? I quit the answer midway. So so that was the first thing. I need a website. So I didn't think about sales and marketing at that time. I was like, I need a website. And second one was, I need to build trust with anyone that comes. So I was like, I need customers. It's like when you go, I've heard, so I haven't done this in my life, but in MBA, for example, they would always say, when you're starting off a new startup, when you go for funding, the first question you get asked is, how many customers do you have, even though you haven't started yet. So that's just how it is. And so I knew I needed to get testimonials. So I just hit milestone after milestone. I was like, okay, let me get testimonials, let me get customers, let me get promotion. So then I had a LinkedIn page set up. And maybe from the start of this year, I was like you mentioned, I need to get a sales pipeline going. So I just purchased a product to get me those lists, and that's what I'm working on right now, though. And I've never done this part of the business before. I've never been on this side, so I actually had an old colleague of mine help me with it. So get the help. You're not going to do this on your own.
Yes, honestly, I love that. I love how open you are about your approach to growing and building the thing that you've always dreamed of, and you're involving others, so you're building a shared thing, which is really cool, because it's kind of like the projects that you deliver to others. You guys are builders for others, so I really love that.
You have to collaborate. You can never do it if you don't. I know in America, a lot of the, especially tech bros, right? I mean, they're going to be very football analogies. There's always a quarterback, and I think they envision the product manager as a quarterback. But, I grew up with soccer, obviously not American football. So for me, I kind of look at product manager differently as someone that, drives the rhythm of the game, decides when to pass, who to pass to, keep things moving in the right direction. It's like a defensive midfielder, to be honest. So so it changes your perspective, because that's your frame of reference, and you see that change, because if product managers think they're quarterback, they think they're the quarterback. They're not listening to what anyone is saying, and there's not much feedback is getting in.
Yeah, I love that analogy. Narain, you're on a good soccer show as well, so I agree with you. The defensive midfielder, a good number 6 is what's going to drive the entire team forward.
That's what I'm saying.
I want to ask you about this, because just knowing the way that your technical brain works, and the fact that you've seen the insides of so many cool projects, and you guys are also building things for others, how has AI changed the landscape on both the client side, the way that you operate, and also internally?
I think, for example, when you said building a sales pipeline, back in the day means last year, or was it 1.5 years ago? You had to spend like $15,000 to get one of these Zoom info lists or whatnot. Now they have these AI tools. I use Seamless AI, for example. It's affordable. It's like $150 a month if you're starting out. It's making things accessible that you probably couldn't before. It's making things faster. I wouldn't say it is making like I wouldn't put like just type an email with a sentence, like that kind of stuff. It actually is counterproductive, I found. You do need to bring your personality to the email. Doesn't mean you type the whole thing yourself, and do have AI have a good check on it, extend it, make it better, all these kind of things. In that aspect, AI has been magnificent for me. It's made my emails look a lot more professional after I've typed them, and a lot better. Definitely the proposals I've done for some of the customers, no way I was doing that without AI. I wouldn't sit down and write such a huge document without AI. But AI is not giving the ideas. AI is just polishing your verbiage.
Yeah, really well said. I think it's important for people to always remember that role that it can play. It's a collaborative partner, but it's not the end all be all, and it's certainly not the end result. So I really love that. Narain, while we have you here, I will say that selfishly, I always enjoy asking entrepreneurs about their time horizon, because everybody I find thinks about time in the future in so many different ways. Here we are talking about AI. We have no idea what's going to exist 12 months from now. It's really exciting to think about that. I'm a big fan of working in quarters. I believe that a quarter, 90 days, is a lot of time that you can be both actionable and you can do some really big things. Where's your time horizon go? Thinking about the fact that your most cherished product is your business product on point, and you're building that product out as well. What's that time horizon look like, and what sort of targets do you set for yourself?
I'll tell you none, actually. I do have yearly targets. Like this year, I was like, last year, 2024, I was like, I'm going to make this look like a legitimate business, is what my goal was. And it took me the whole year to do it. Initially, I had targets and timelines. I'm going to do this quarter, that quarter. It's just putting too much pressure on yourself. There's a lot of stuff you're going to have to figure out. It takes a lot of time. Just keep it chill, is what I say. But if I were working for a customer, that's different. In my career, and when I worked on projects with customers, for example, I do have like 6-week deliverables, right? You do it like 6 weeks is 2-week sprints, like a trilogy, the start, the middle, the end, a nice story arc. 6-week deliverables is how I work, and I do guarantee, and I've done this in previous companies I've worked in, that is 90-day MVPs. That is, we're going to get you going in 90 days or less.
Yeah, gosh, I love that. And I know that listeners' ears will perk up, because they'll probably be thinking, Narain, what's behind the scenes powering all of this? You have some favorite tools or project management systems that keep all of these things on track?
Actually, no. It's like, because it's not there yet. The scale is not yet there where I have 10 customers. I'm trying to manage stuff with it. But one of the biggest tools I use is Notion. It's great for me because when I write these proposals, one of the things I was particular about was I wanted to be a studio that is essentially with a consulting agency, I guess. But I wanted to be a little bit of a difference. Like 10% should be a little edgy. So but I'm going to be working with customers that are used to reading Word documents, PDF documents, but I wanted them to instantly feel they're going to be somewhere else. So I wanted Notion, and I want to give them a web page, and I want to move things in the proposal around, put some color, make it look like an article that you're reading, make it fun. If a lawyer reads a Word document, they're very comfortable. If they see a Notion page, suddenly they're like, I need to, something interesting is happening here. So that was something I did, and it is value for money for me. I'm not a Notion advertiser. It was value for money because you can do many things. Like for some customers, I just can create the customer center for them. Their whole documentation is there. Their progress, you can do Jira queues and all this kind of stuff. Swim lanes with Notion. It's a very cost-effective tool.
Yeah, I love the fact that that's the one that you picked, and you also had that disclaimer of you're not sponsored by them. We're not sponsored by them either, but I cannot stop talking about how good Notion is.
I saw you guys had the same thing. You gave me the webpage. I'm like, okay, these guys, I see it. I see what's happening here. But I know Notion doesn't have so many fans. I'm a big fan, and I know my customers, I've always looked at their eyes when they looked at the proposal, like, well, because you can move things around a bit, makes it fun.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Notion is an absolutely incredible tool. Well, Narain, you have given us so many things to think about, so much food for thought, so many growth opportunities. And what I really appreciate about you is not only the way that you operate on your clients and your projects and the way that you operate internally, but that entrepreneurial mind, that executive mind that has really helped you flourish and build an awesome team. So with all of that in mind and with that hat on, I love to ask this question at the end of interviews, and that is, what's your best piece of advice? Knowing that we're being listened to by both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at all different stages of their own growth journeys, what's that one thing that you want to leave them with from today's episode?
I think one of the biggest traits I think that has really helped me decide to do the studio, decide to get it this far. It's not that far, but to get wherever it is was absolutely a belief in myself. You definitely need to believe in yourself. You don't have all the answers. You don't know what you're doing, but do believe that, you will get to that milestone either by struggling or whatever, calling people, you're fighting. You'll get there. Just back yourself. And if you're not, if you're getting too panicky, then maybe it's time to think about how to get yourself confident about your work.
Yes, really well said and important advice. Listeners, this is the reality from entrepreneur to entrepreneur is that we always will have those moments of self-doubt, but we have to back ourselves. I love the way you articulate that, Narain. I also know that listeners will be keen to check out all the great work that you're up to with Product on Point. I personally loved reading through the fact that you've got case studies on there. You list out your services, your process, lots of good stuff going on behind the scenes at Product on Point. So drop those links on us. Where should listeners go from here?
Hey, visit productonpoint.com. It has a hyphen between product on point because Product on Point was taken. Do visit our LinkedIn page. Just search for Product on Point on LinkedIn. Follow it. We do have a bunch of our case studies and what we do, who we are over there. If you're looking for advice on what you should do as a product manager on our page, probably not. I think there's a lot of noise about that already on LinkedIn. For us, you're going to see our work, you're going to see our case studies, who we are, what we do, and it will hopefully we can illuminate you guys on how we go about our businesses through the examples that we set.
Yes, so well said. Listeners, don't mind the hyphens because you can click right on through down below in the show notes. No matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode, you'll find a link to Narain's business website, productonpoint.com, with some hyphens in between, product-on-point.com, but you can click right on through. So definitely check the show notes out down below. Otherwise, Narain, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.